So what you're about to see is something that I'm trying as a diagnostic, basically an easy, quick check of something to knock off the list for trying to figure out what's going on with the transmission on this car. So without further ado, here's the video. Hey everybody, how's it going? Chris from Wicked Repairs here. Thank you for watching this video, and I appreciate everybody's support, subscribing to the channel, and giving me a thumbs up on the videos, and I appreciate your comments and sometimes your input too as well, because you know, we're all learning at the same time here with things. And if anybody has any suggestions, recommendations, fixes, anything like that, any type of knowledge is always acceptable. I don't take you know, anything in a bad way. Any knowledge that I can gain or anybody else can gain from anybody's comments is greatly appreciated. So what I have here is my 2014 Ford Focus, and I've been having some issues the past couple of days with the transmission, surprisingly, right? Because we all know, who has these cars, that there's been a lot of transmission issues with these vehicles, transmission control modules, stuff like that. And it goes through a bunch of years, I think all the way back to like 2011 for Focus and Fiesta. And mine's a 2014. I think that most of the kinks have been done by here, but they weren't. I know some things have been definitely upgraded, and so anyhow, I've been having some issues the past couple of days. I mean, the car has got 138,000 miles on it now. I bought it brand new, and I've already had the transmission control module replaced on it at 16,000 miles when I first bought the car, and now we're at 138,000. And I came home from work the other day, and it wouldn't shift well. Very hard shifting, very hesitant. Brought it home, put it in park, shut it off, went back to go tinker with it and look at it, and everything was fine. Car was running normal. Then it started doing it again. And I noticed that every once in a while when I shut it off and turn it back on, it'd be fine. Then all of a sudden the check engine light popped up, and I put my code reader on it, and I got a P07A5 code. And that's for the transmission friction element B being stuck on. So it's a possibility always that it might not actually be a friction plate, friction element. It might not possibly be the TCM. And so we're going to go through a couple of steps here. And this one that I'm going to do today is basically check the ground wires. I know they had put out a bulletin a while back, Ford, for checking ground wires, make sure you had the proper bolts in, stuff like that. One thing I did recently to this was replace the battery just about a week ago, and then that's when these problems started occurring. I know I tightened everything on the battery, but we're going to double check that. But the biggest thing is the ground wire. So I'm going to turn you around and show you what we're going to look at and why we're going to look at it. So right here under the hood is where you have your battery location. Okay, so you can pop this panel off. You can see it is a new battery. Now when I replaced this battery, the ground wire at the terminal of the battery was extremely corroded, very, very corroded. And I cleaned all that up, cleaned all the terminals up, put a little dielectric grease on them, put them all back when I put the battery in. I charged the battery fully before I even installed it on the car. And so one thing we're going to look at, if you notice, I'm going to check this because it could be anything. It could be even just dirty transmission oil. 138,000 miles. I've never changed it. It should have been done, and I never did. But you can see even on this, there's a lot of green corrosion. It is tight on there. Don't feel any issues with that. But if you notice, these ground brackets are all painted. So we're going to take this off. We're going to see inside here and see if it's possibly a corrosion issue or a contact issue. And we'll take this off and we'll see what it looks like in there. All right, so we got that off. And I took off the positive battery terminal too, just for safety's sake. And here's your bolt. And you can see the corrosion that's on there. There's a little bit of rust. That's not going to make a good clean contact. So as you can see here as well, where it goes, it's completely painted. So this eyelet and where the ground is, there is no good contact surface here with all that paint. Basically the only contact surface you have is the threads on this bolt contacting the threads that's inside here, which are of course have some corrosion on it as well. And when I took it off, you know, it was like dry, flaky corrosion popping off. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this is all this is. And basically what happens is when you get this corrosion, you lose a bunch of connectivity between your ground and through this wire, and you're not going to get the proper amperage that you need for your vehicle to run and for the transmission control module to work properly. So you could have tons of codes, tons of issues because of this. So we're going to try this, give it a shot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up a little bit on this bolt. I'll probably just use like a brass bristle brush just to kind of clean the corrosion off, and if I have to, we'll run a tap through it. I'll run a dye to it rather. And the other thing I'm going to do is clean the paint off of this surface here, as well as clean this down. I mean, you could see it's rusty, it's corroded, it's green, it's not in good condition. So we're going to clean everything up the best we can, and then we're going to put everything back together and see what happens. All right, so I got everything cleaned up here. You can see I got that all down to bare metal. We cleaned up the eyelet a bunch. What we're going to do is take some dielectric grease. I'm going to stick it on here. It's going to keep it from corroding and rusting. Okay, and we're also going to coat the eyelet with the dielectric grease as well. Help keep down corrosion, and of course from cleaning it up, it makes it down to bare metal. It's more susceptible to corrosion rather than paint. And what I did was I just used one of these on my drill, my grinder, and I just ground off the paint there. Of course, you could use sandpaper or file or whatever you want that's going to get that paint off of there. So yeah, it's simple as that. To try this anyhow and give it a shot. This will be step one. Hopefully there's no more steps, but we'll see. And I took the bolt and I cleaned it up pretty good with a wire brush in the inside of that washer a little bit, and we're gonna basically just stick it back on, get it together, and tighten it up. Make sure that the ground little part there goes through the hole properly, and we're gonna tighten that down, and we're gonna see what happens. All right, so we got everything in. We're gonna start the car. You can see the mileage 138,790. Start the car up. Now the check engine light is still on, so there probably is still an issue. Now, sometimes if the check engine light's on, you might need to clear it. You might need to drive the car to get it to go off, but you know, probably still an issue. But I wanted to check that ground wire first, knowing that it's an issue. Now, one thing I noticed since I've had this issue is when I go to drive, if I put it into standard mode, or sport mode, it doesn't light up. You notice it's not orange like the rest of it. So when that happens, that's a telltale sign that you have an issue with the TCM wiring, water intrusion, a stuck shift fork or something like that that's not allowing you to put it into sport mode. So yeah, I'm gonna clear the code anyhow, and we'll see. Obviously it doesn't seem to be fixed, so we'll work our way from there. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it could be just a ground issue for you, and I'll be putting out video number 2 for the next step that we do. We'll probably be changing the transmission oil, because this code can show up if you have dirty transmission oil that needs to be changed, a lot of fibers that could be in there, and the shift actuators A and B, I know that those can also get dirty and clogged up where they're not working properly and making everything stick. So we'll see, that could be an issue too. Thank you for watching this video, and we'll catch you on the next one. Now, just a quick update on this too. This is only 2 minutes after I basically finished the video, and I put my scanner on. I got one of these Zurichs from Harbor Freight. I put my scanner on and I cleared the code. It said permanent, but it did clear, and now you can see it goes into sport mode. So this car right now will run completely fine. There will be no issues with the transmission. it's going to run like normal. And we'll see if it holds on. You know, if it doesn't do that anymore, or you know, if it has fixed the issue. I guess we'll see now that I cleared the code. No check engine light, and it is shifting properly into sport mode. So we'll see what happens, and I'll keep you all updated.